The Biden campaign is reportedly planning to host a fundraiser later this month in New York, which will feature a $100,000 photo op with President Biden and former presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, or for $200,000, just Obama.
The death cult. The death cult lives on. They think that he can slow the rise of the oceans. They want to date him. You know, in a hot tub, that kind of. Like Roman Polanski. I give a standing ovation to. Well, happy Thursday to you, and welcome. It's State of the Union Day. Lunch Bucket Joe, will it be his last major speech ever? I wonder what the odds are in Vegas. Probably something. So the State of the Union and Joe Biden, he's practicing real hard. He's practicing and practicing. He's reading and reading. He's got binders full of pages, and he was studying at Camp David and studying and studying. And really the only reason to watch it is because it might be a complete disaster. And that could be fun. There are a lot of things like, you know, is he going to mention at long last the name Laken Riley, the 22-year-old nursing student in Georgia that was murdered by an illegal alien that Joe Biden and the Democrats waved into the country? A Venezuelan, and you see the Venezuelan's brother, who's also Venezuelan, not coincidentally, also has been arrested. He's here illegally, too, been arrested time and again. They keep letting him go. And now some of the Republicans on Capitol Hill, they want to pass a bill, Laken Riley bill, that would take illegal aliens who are caught for other crimes like theft and stealing and shoplifting and, you know, carjacking and things, and put those people in jail until they can be deported. And the Democrats said, no, we want them to date our daughters. So they've put the kibosh on that. We got that going. State of the Union tonight. President Donald J. Trump is going to be live on Truth Social, responding with what he's calling real-time fact checks on Joe Biden during the State of the Union, which I've got to say is brilliant and hilarious. And I think, you know, it'd be nice if you could carry it live on TV while you're carrying the State of the Union speech, and then in a corner have Donald Trump's Truth Social stream in the corner of your screen. That'd be a lot of fun. But, you know, you gotta know that there's a bit of a delay built in for a variety of reasons. There are a number of delays built in. The State of the Union going out in your cable television may be a 20-second delay, and President Trump needs time to take in what Joe Biden said and then type on Truth Social the response and then shoot it out. So it might be too much of a delay to carry it on the screen in real time. But I think the plan is to have the iPad on the couch with Trump's Truth Social stream, his thread, going in real time while the State of the Onion is on the screen there. And that can be big fun for the whole family. Gather the whole family around. Get the biggest laptop or iPad you have and put it up there so you can follow President Trump's fact-checking of Joe Biden in real time, almost, during the State of the Union. And that is big fun. That's a lot of fun, I've got to say. Speaking of a lot of fun, we have it now. It's a crazy world, but there's a lot of, the Democrats gave me so much stuff today. It's completely ridiculous. And I don't know how many hours they think I have on my radio show, but they apparently think I have more than I do. Amazing stuff. There's more news from Joe Biden land because Dean Phillips, the famous Dean Phillips, he was going to steal it all away from Joe Biden, running for president as a Democrat. Ever hear of him? Dean Phillips finally drops long shot bid to oust Joe Biden. Wah, wah, wah. So sad for Dean Phillips. Very, very sad. Andrea Mitchell on NBC Fake News on MSDNC, which is a mental asylum on cable television. Andrea Mitchell doubts own network's negative Biden poll. Oh, no. It's the NBC News poll, and it looks real bad for Biden. She's like, well, that's just got to be wrong. That can't be right. Because she is, they might have gone to high school together. Maybe she wants to date Joe Biden. Do you think she wants to date? Because Got all kinds of things going on there that we don't really want to think about, but I've got that coming up too. Also, they are putting a fence back up around the Capitol for the State of the Union. They should really call out the National Guard like they have in New York because of the crime. This is an amazing story out of New York too, but there is a big fence going up around the U.S. Capitol for the State of the Union because they're still pretending a lot of things. They live in an imaginary world. Maybe they're concerned that the left will show up and riot like they did for 3 days at the White House, forcing the evacuation of the president, where they set St. John's Church on fire, the church of the presidents, and injured 180 police officers. Maybe they're worried about that. Maybe they'll set up a CHOP and kill people like they did in Seattle. That was Seattle. Was that Seattle? Because they killed people in Portland, too. The Democrats, they kill a lot of people. They love killing. Manischewitz, I am telling you. So Republicans press Joe Biden to explain executive order targeting Israeli Jews. The Democrats are making anti-Semitism fashionable again. You know, the last time it was the Socialist Workers' Party in Germany. Today it's the Socialist Workers' Party in the United States. They call themselves the Democrat Party. But why the Jews, Joe Biden? He probably won't talk about that. And really, will he mention the name of Laken Riley in the State of the Union? Because the Republicans, the Speaker of the House and other Republicans have invited guests, as is normal for the State of the Union, to sit in the gallery. And normally, if your president is at the podium delivering the State of the Union, you might call people out in the gallery and have them stand up and you say something about them. They're called Skutniks. Goes way back to the Reagan days when Lenny Skutnik was invited to sit in the gallery. Lenny Skutnik was a hero when an Air Florida plane crashed into the icy waters of the Potomac River. Lenny Skutnik, driving by, just a regular guy, parked his car, got out, ran down to the icy waters, dived in, and saved people from the Air Florida plane crash that had crashed into the 14th Street Bridge. And Lenny Skutnik was selfless, didn't care about his own life, went in and saved innocent people. The plane crash. President Reagan invited Lenny Skutnik to be in the gallery for the State of the Union and had him stand up, and everybody gave him a nice round of applause because he's, that's what you're supposed to be as an American man. And so now when guests are invited to sit in the gallery, they're called Skutniks, named for Lenny Skutnik. It's a great American story, really. But Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is inviting members of the NYPD that were attacked and violently brutalized by Venezuelan criminals that Joe Biden and the Democrats invited into the country, waved into the country, gave gift baskets and free crack cocaine and guns, and gave them the keys to your house and your daughter's name. But the Democrats and Joe Biden, they're not inviting the NYPD that were attacked by the illegal aliens from Venezuela after Venezuela emptied their prisons and sent all their criminals to the United States. Venezuela is enjoying a 22-year low in homicides. Venezuela is. We are not, on the other hand. But they keep telling us, we got some of this today too, because the news media is like, oh no, crime is at an all-time low nationwide. As long as you don't count all the places with all the murders and the crime being really high, then it's an all-time. And wait till you hear some of the media liars today. Amazing. But Mike Johnson inviting members, the actual guys that were attacked by the Venezuelan gang in Times Square, and also inviting a hostage that was held by Hamas. Amazing stuff. They invited the parents of Laken Riley, and the parents of Laken Riley are such normal people, and they're still grieving the loss that was inflicted upon them by the Democrats and their Venezuelan gang member friends, that they declined the invitation to be in the gallery for the State of the Union. The Republicans are inviting the right people, but they won't be singled out by the president because, they invited their own people. They invited someone from the Medellin cartel. They got a member of the Medellin cartel, which is going to be sitting in the gallery. And who else are they going to have there? They've got the Sinaloa cartel. Tren de Aragua, that's a Venezuelan gang. They've got a gang leader from Venezuela, gang leader from the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico, merry old Mexico. Hey, Reba. and MS-13. They've got MS. We expect the president to be singling out, hey, Sinaloa cartel, stand up out there, because they love death and murder and mayhem and fatal drug overdoses, and they hate the police. They're pro-crime and anti-police. They defund the police and they fund crime, which is, if you're an illegal alien, you can commit all the crimes you want, and they keep putting you back on the street until you murder somebody. And then they scratch their heads and debate whether they should let you out again, because they're not on our side. Man, oh man, oh man. And also the Republicans have invited the parents of a young man, a teenager, 17-year-old, who died of fentanyl poisoning in his room in his parents' house. They thought he was studying, and he thought he was taking a little pill that would help him study, and instead it killed him. It was fentanyl. It came from communist China through the cartels in Mexico, and Joe Biden is their favorite president because, look at everything that he's done for the cartels. So we got that going at the State of the Union, and I'll be watching, and I'll be following President Trump's responses in more or less real time on Truth Social tonight too, because that is big fun. Big fun. So we got that going on tonight. And that's, set your DVRs if you haven't already, because we got that. And the fence going back up around the Capitol because they're fascists, Oh no, we're so afraid that Republicans might show up, and they're not all transgender. So they, it's pretty amazing stuff. But the Democrats are, of course, the party of riots and mob political street violence and burning churches and assaulting the police on a regular basis. That's why a few people on January 6th thought that had all been normalized, because it had all been normalized by the Democrat Party. So we got that. Also, President Trump, I talked about this yesterday, and I appropriately credited Dana Perino, who said, President Trump, when he spoke night before last, should have challenged Joe Biden to a debate when he was speaking from Mar-a-Lago on Super Tuesday, the evening of Super Tuesday. Should have challenged Biden to a debate. And I talked about it here. Said, would have been because then the headlines would be, right, you're challenged to a debate, and will he accept the debate? But yesterday, President Trump did call out Biden and say, let's have a debate. And, better late than never. But the left-wing radical media, the extremists at Mediaite, Trump begs, the word begs in all caps, Trump begs for a debate with Biden after skipping every primary debate. Well, the Republican Party primary debates are one thing. Now that there are two presidential candidates, pretty clearly, it's time for a presidential debate. But the news media is going to attack the idea of a debate because our news media is the most corrupt institution in the United States of America. They're up there with Venezuelan gangs when it comes to the level of corruption. Just amazing stuff. So, speaking of Democrat Party corruption, judge in Georgia says he will rule whether to remove Fani Willis from the Trump case within 2 weeks. Why don't you just go ahead and do it today? Maybe during the show. I think that'd be helpful. And as I mentioned in passing a couple of minutes ago, the governor of New York, a Democrat, is Kathy Hochul. It's pronounced Hochul. And she's sending the National Guard to New York City because we're a third world country. Thanks to the Democrat Party, hundreds and hundreds of National Guard troops armed to the teeth, body armor, camouflage, helmets, to the New York City subway. Because while the Democrats keep telling us there's no crime problem, what's the problem here? Now, here come hundreds of National Guard and hundreds of state police to take over the New York City subways because of all the crime and murder and mayhem and rape in the New York City subways. And then they added a layer of Venezuelan gangs and MS-13. And you see on Long Island, those people chopped up into pieces, right? And that's a woman's head was found, and they didn't even find the rest of her, I think. Who knows what's going on there? A man's arm, a man's leg, got gang tattoos all over. And the Democrats are making things better because their progressive ideas are so great. Setting the National Guard, you may remember that Senator Tom Cotton wrote an op-ed while the Democrats were burning our cities from coast to coast, suggesting we send in the Guard. And it caused so much upheaval at the New York Times that the editor that allowed Senator Tom Cotton, Harvard Law combat vet, caused such upheaval at the New York Times that they forced out the editorial page editor, the op-ed page editor, forced him out of the newspaper, banished, never to work in the corrupt media again, although I think he does really. But now a Democrat is sending in the National Guard to take over the New York City subway. They're going to do bag checks. That ought to go really well. So the military takeover of New York City comes with the fascism, the extremism, the commies, the Democrat Party. Pretty amazing stuff. I've got more for you on that. Boots underground, the headline at the New York Post today. Remarkable stuff. And John Kerry, also the Democrats, hey, maybe we should fight crime in D.C. and San Francisco and New York City because they're all such idiots. They wreck the places and everybody's noticing except them. So we've got that. And what do you hear what John Kerry said? Brilliant. It's one of the funniest and most tragic global warming comments ever made by anyone. Bolt Neck Kerry coming up. Haiti is on fire. The prisons are emptying out there, and the Haitian criminals are headed here, already grabbing a bunch down in Florida. Got that for you, too. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. Yeah, the John Kerry story today is one of my favorites ever when it comes to global warming and the mental illness that is the Democrat Party. Let's take a phone call, Michael. We're at 888-630-9625. Now I'm looking at the clock, and I've run. I did that yesterday, and I'm going to see. I'll learn eventually. And in addition to John Kerry and Joe Biden and the State of the Union and Lake and Riley and all of this amazing stuff, they keep telling us that crime is down because they lie about everything. The economy is up, they tell us, right? It's they're lying about the economy, and they're lying about illegal aliens, and they're lying about crime because they're liars. That's the bottom line there. But an amazing story today in the Washington Times, not the Washington Post, not a newspaper. Biden's claims of reduction in crime defy data. Big cities battling more violence now than before he took office. And they got a Democrat here calling illegal alien criminals undocumented citizens. I kid you not, a Democrat in Prince George's County, where the crime rate is crazy. Undocumented citizens. Yeah, lies, damn lies, and statistics, and the Democrats are lying about murder and crime and gangs and illegal aliens and drug deaths, because they're liars, and that's what liars do. But the Washington Times is covering the story correctly, as has the New York Post in the past, but liberals don't get their news from the Washington Times and the New York Post. They get their fake news from MSDNC and the Washington Post, which lies because, they're liars, Democrats. I'll explain how they're lying. There's a method to their dishonesty. Fairly consistent, they are. And John Boltneck Kerry. I want to get to that because that's just a riot. All right, but first, let's go to the telephones, which I almost did before, but I didn't quite. And Jane on the phones today says maybe Joe Biden will invite Cookie Monster to be in the gallery because Cookie Monster is another shill for the left, the propaganda machine. Got to get the kids. Just like the twerking and the, what is it? Queer, what? What's the book for kids in the school, Gender queer. Got to get the kids. So they got the Cookie Monster out there lying about, what's the Cookie Monster lying about? He's lying about crime. He's lying for shrinkflation. His cookie is smaller. Yeah, and the propaganda machine of the Democrat Party is something that Gurgle would die for. Again. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Steve calling from Ashburn, Virginia. Stephen, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. There's a plethora of topics available, but I'll get to my point, and that's concerning Laken Riley. I think Joe Biden should take the opportunity and the advantage to say her name and champion her as a martyr for the cause of illegal immigration. She's an acceptable loss. She's a collateral damage in this, and I think that if he does that, he will certainly get a lot of people's attention.
Well, you're absolutely right, because that's why they're ignoring her, because she is an acceptable loss. She is collateral damage to the Democrat Party's fundamental transformation of America, as is the 14-year-old girl in Virginia who was kidnapped by an illegal alien and raped. 14-year-old girl, her life will never be the same. Or maybe the 2-year-old boy that was shot and killed in Prince George's County by an illegal alien who was shooting at somebody else but shot and killed the 2-year-old. And, you got a young woman in Iowa murdered by an illegal alien. We got people all over the country being murdered and raped and assaulted. We got these people chopped up on a woman's head found in Long Island and a man's tattoo-covered arm, and then his leg was found nearby. And none of this is even a story at CNN. None of that. They couldn't be bothered with Laken Riley's murder by an illegal alien from Venezuela, or the murderer's, he's the alleged murderer. Yeah, he's been caught. He's arrested. He did it. And the murderer's brother in Georgia is another illegal alien who has now been tied to this massive Venezuelan gang. And he was arrested again and again. And the Democrats just keep letting him go because, they don't want to do anything until he murders somebody. Yeah, the brother of the Laken Riley murderer, another illegal alien, also from Venezuela, is a member of the Tren Aragua, this famous Venezuelan prison gang. And they're all over the country now. And Joe Biden doesn't give a hoot. But you're right. He should talk about it and say, hey, Laken Riley was murdered by an illegal alien from Venezuela. But we're a nation of immigrants, he should say. And all the Democrats would clap like seals, because we're becoming Venezuela. And that's the way they like it. You're right. Now, some people might think that you're sounding a little bit cynical, Steve, but I don't think you are. I think it's, it's almost optimistic. You say, well, Joe Biden should just take credit for the murder. And the Democrats, I think, Democrat voters and Democrats in the House and the Senate would approve. I think they'd like that. Hey, yeah, sure, we're a nation. Bad things happen. And then they'd get back to deploying the National Guard to the subways in New York because of all the crime there, while they tell us that crime is down. It's an amazing time we're living in, isn't it, Steve?
It certainly is. And you will recall, because you're a person of history, that back not too long ago, there were certain cultures were saying, well, we regret we don't have more sons to sacrifice for the cause. And of course, that's barbaric. And in this case, yes, I am saying this tongue in cheek, except there are certain areas within our culture as well. So, don't worry about that. You got to break a few eggs,
That's right.
To make the omelet and to encourage a pluralistic society that it embraces all. No, it's not. Let's get back to the society that we created over centuries, which is a stable, normal, orderly society. We don't want to go into back into the dark ages of which we're being pressed by the leftists, right?
You're 100% right, and they are pushing us into a new dark age. And it's because they're dismantling civilization. And as for the cultures that say, I wish I had another son to give, it's like the Islamists are happy to have their sons blown up as martyrs with suicide vests as long as they kill some Jews. And the Democrats are in cahoots with Hamas and Iran. I've got an update on Iran, too, because the idiots in the Biden administration are asking, pleading with, begging Iran to start de-enriching their uranium that they've enriched to near weapons grade on a massive scale, because John Kerry, the negotiator of the horrible and horribly named JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, that allowed Iran to advance their nuclear weapons program and their ballistic missile program when they've announced that they plan on nuking all of us. And guess who helped? Barack Obama, huge help. John Kerry, huge help to the genocide of Western civilization while they yell about genocide in the Gaza. And honestly, and now their ballistic missile program allowed to advance too. And they now the Biden administration is pleading with Iran, oh, please, will you start de-enriching the uranium that you're enriching legally under the JCPOA, although they're enriching it to a higher level of purity than they're allowed to under this idiot Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The left is the biggest threat to Western civilization, and that means today in the United States of America, the Democrat Party is a threat to Western civilization, the likes of which Iran could never be. But the left in the United States taking over the Democrat Party, clearing Iran's path to enriching uranium, spinning centrifuges, advancing their ballistic missile program, and now the pathetic Democrat Party begging Iran, oh, you've got 60% enriched uranium, 60% pure, and could you reduce the purity of your uranium? They're going to laugh and laugh and laugh and then kill some people, because that's what they do. Steve, you're paying attention.
I am, and thanks to you, I'm even more informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for the call. Now, let's see. There are so many crazy things to get to. Because I've been talking about John Kerry, let's go to John Kerry, because this story, I got to tell you, made me laugh out loud. And we did this story on my Newsmax show last night. Chris Plant and the Right Squad on Newsmax, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. on the West Coast. And a lot of fun last night. We did have a lot of fun topics because the Democrats are insane. But here's the headline. John Kerry says people would, quote, feel better, end quote, about Ukraine war if Russia would reduce emissions. Now, I'm not, this sounds like I'm being satirical, but I'm not. He said if they would make a greater effort to reduce emissions, and he means what does he mean, like smokeless powder for the AK-47s? Smokeless powder for the 155 millimeter howitzer shells? Explosions from bombs without smoke? Tanks that are EVs? You need, that'd be ETs, I think, electric tanks. These people are mentally ill. They are mental dwarves. And John Kerry, also known as Boltneck, who every Halloween goes as himself and just stands in the front door and scares away the children. Who's that scary man? Oh, he was Democrat Secretary of State who green-lighted Iran's nuclear weapons program along with Barack Hussein Obama. But never mind that. So listen to this audio actuality that we have for you. It's quite extraordinary. John Kerry, this is almost impossible to believe. Now, keep in mind that according to the fairly recent reports, not updated in the last few days, 315,000 Russians have been killed in this war and about 200,000 Ukrainians. So let's use a round number, 500,000 people have died. The Democrats are rioting and attacking AOC and Joe Biden events and Kamala Harris events and Hillary Clinton events, yelling, ceasefire now, not about the 500,000 people killed. Russia, he's a communist, by the way, Vlad the Impaler Putin, and he likes the Soviet Union. He misses the Soviet Union. And he attacked Ukraine, and we got 500,000 people dead. But they're yelling, no, there have been 30,000 people killed in Gaza. A genocidal radical Islamic terrorist organization named Hamas, funded by Iran, while Iran is funded by Barack Obama and Joe Biden and by John Boltneck Kerry. Just amazing stuff. No, they want a ceasefire in the little war, but not in the big war. There is an active slave trade going on in the war in Sudan and Africa. No call for a ceasefire there. The Democrat Party is the party of slavery. But let's get back to John Kerry, because it's just amazing that the outgoing special envoy on climate, I kid you not, and they created an acronym, SPEC. He's SPEC, S-P-E-C, the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate. I'm not kidding. They call him SPEC, like Richard Speck, who killed a bunch of nurses in Chicago long ago, but never mind that. Or Spectre, the bad guy organization in the James Bond movies. John Kerry claimed that people would feel better about the ongoing war in Ukraine if Russia would only make a greater effort to reduce their emissions while they're killing all those people.
Russia has the ability to wage a war illegally. They ought to be able to find the effort to be responsible in the climate issue. If Russia wanted to show good faith, they could go out and announce what their reductions are going to be and make a greater effort to reduce emissions now. And maybe that would open up the door for people to feel better about what Russia is choosing to do at this point in time.
I have shoes that are smarter than he is. That is one of the dumbest. I've never heard an adult say anything that dumb. There are dumb college professors. There are dumb members of Congress. That is one of the dumbest things ever said by a bipedal hominid. That is so absolutely extraordinary. Well, they have the, wherewithal to wage a war. If Russia wanted to show good faith, he said, what would ever give you the impression that Russia wants to show good faith? How dumb are you? He was our Secretary of State at a time when the president, Barack Obama, bombed 8 countries, more countries than any president since World War II. So a heck of a job with your diplomacy there. And of course, Hillary Clinton, bombing Libya for 8 months when Barack Obama told us it would last days and not weeks. Then it took 8 months, and the news media turned a blind eye to it because they're not a legitimate news media. They're the most corrupt institution in America. If Russia wanted to show good faith, he begins, that is an absurd starting point. It's Putin. He has women shot to death in their apartment building elevators because they wrote negative stories about him. He doesn't act in good faith. He's not a good faith actor. They could go out and announce what their reductions are going to be. What are you talking about? And make a greater effort to reduce emissions now. I got to tell you, at least, Putin and the gang will get a good laugh out of this. Putin might put this on his phone as his ringtone to just laugh and laugh and laugh. That is about the most ridiculous thing. Now, last night on my Newsmax show, I did horrify a couple of people at the table, and I said, well, the war has killed 500,000 people so far, so that helps to offset. See, it's like carbon offsets. Putin should get credit for the offsets. 500,000 people dead, that reduces carbon footprint, right? That's carbon output. That never happens because they've killed 500,000 people. And John Kerry doesn't care about that. He cares about their emissions, and you got to reduce emissions. Now, if you're a high-end sniper, like Marine Corps Sniper School, you have special rounds of ammunition that are smokeless because you don't want the puff of smoke coming out of the shrubbery that you're in while you're being a sniper. So they have smokeless ammo. Maybe John Kerry should get into the smokeless ammo business, keep the war going, but reduce emissions. And honestly, what they want is fewer people on the planet. They hate people. Who did I hear say this last night? Somebody on the television. I said, well, the problem with the left is they hate people. I'm like, duh. Only been saying that for 25 years. Maybe it would open the door, he says, for people to feel better about what Russia is choosing to do at this point in time. That's what John Kerry said. Maybe people would feel better. I'm not making this up. I'm quoting him. Open the door for people to feel better about what Russia is choosing to do at this point in time. People could feel better if Russia reduced their emissions in the war that's killed 500,000 people while they yell ceasefire now in the war against jihad that has killed 30,000 people. These people are unwell. These are not serious people. Amazing stuff. Democrat crime from New York to Washington, D.C., and the lies that they're telling us. I've got the truth coming up. Democrat New York Governor Kathy Hochul calling out the National Guard because of the crime, bringing state troopers into the city of New York. Washington, D.C. passing their massive new crime bill. The problem is they're kids, of course. Problem is not our guns, it's your sons. Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Chicago, Illinois, San Francisco. Drugs, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's the Democrat Party. They dropped the rock and roll, though, and don't want to talk about the sex. Crime and mayhem, carjackings, homicides, Venezuelan gangs. The Democrat Party and their many contributions. And will you hear the lies? I've got the lies, and I'll explain why what they're telling us is a lie. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. I've got that coming up. Right now, let's take another phone call. Let's go to Mark, calling from the great state of Kansas. Mark, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hello.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, I was just going to say that all these lies that the Democrats are telling us parallel what the Nazis did to the Jews. They lied to them all the way to the gas chambers.
Well, yes, they did. Everything's going to be better. We're going to move you here. You're going to have your own neighborhood. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to call it a ghetto. And once you get there, you can't leave. And then, hey,
right.
We're going to take you someplace else, and it's going to be even better.
Yep.
Yeah, there are a lot of parallels between. This is the left in America. These aren't liberals. And this is something I keep saying because it's true, and people need to be nice if the editors at the Washington Post figured this out, too. But they won't until their kids are, carjacked and kidnapped and killed by Venezuelan gangs. And even then, as Steve was saying a few minutes ago, then they'll say, hey, you got to break a few eggs. Come on, there's a big project going on here. We're making everything better. That's...
Yeah, they don't mind how much blood they get on their hands.
No, they really don't, do they? Because the left, the left murdered 100 million people in the 20th century. And we're almost... a quarter of the way through the 21st century. China is nipping at our heels over there. The Democrat Party, Joe Biden took millions, his family took millions from the Chinese communists. And the Democrat Party is not on our side.